Hello, this is Watch All About with another watch review, and in this review we're looking at a watch by Undone, in particular the Urban Regatta Nacra 17 Special Edition. Undone are becoming pretty well known in terms of customization for watches, so this is one of those watches which are quite customizable. So we take the inner box out of the external cardboard box, and we have a nice feel, soft touch texture case with this vintage style printwork on top. Pop open the button and the innards slide out. So again, a bit of a retro postcardy kind of thing here. Owner's manual, and we have the watch in question. So this is quite a nice box, you know, a little bit unusual, a little bit different, but also probably be quite handy for traveling, which is quite a handy thing to have. It's also quite small, which is good because I'm fed up of gigantic boxes and trying to store them everywhere. So this is the Undone Urban Regatta Nacra 17. So this is actually a special edition. Nacra is a make of boat, and Nacra 17 is a specific boat used in yacht racing, such as the Olympic Games. So the only difference between this and the regular version really is the Nacra 17 logo, which is here, and also it's on the case back as well. So if you were to go for the standard Urban Regatta, it would be exactly the same, apart from without the logo. That's the only difference, really. So let's start off by discussing some of the details then. The price is £245 or $325 for a standard version. Obviously with Undone, you can add a multitude of different features, customizations, which does affect the price, but £245 for a base price. Size-wise, we've got a 41.8mm diameter and a 12.5mm height, and then a lug-to-lug length of 47.5mm. Now, 41.8 sounds like quite a lot, but in actual fact, it doesn't wear that large visually or physically, mainly thanks to the fact that the bezel in question is that wide, but the actual rest of the case is not. You can see it, the bezel sticks out a good mil and a half either side, so that makes it really comfortable to wear, but it still provides, you know, quite a bit of wrist presence when you're looking at it, especially being that it's a steel bezel rather than a coloured bezel. So it does pop, but it's not overly huge, which is a really good formation that they've used here. 12.5mm is pretty suitable as well. As you can see, we've got a raised crystal, but more on that later on. 65 grams is the weight, so it's really nice, easy weight, easy to wear, comfortable. You can wear it all day long. 3 atmospheres or 30 meters water resistant, so don't get it wet because, you know, it's not particularly very well protected. You could probably splash water on it, but I wouldn't go underwater with it at all. 20mm lug width, which is very suitable width for the size of the case, and you get a 1-year warranty with it as well. The movement used is a Seiko VK83, which is a mecha quartz chronograph. So as you can see, when I start the chronograph, our big seconds hand has a mechanical module behind it, which is why it has this sort of smooth sweep. Runs at about 5 ticks a second. And why the Seiko VK83 in particular? Well, I can tell you, because of the 20-minute chronograph here used. It's split into 5-minute increments, and that is basically because that is used a lot in boat racing, 5-minute increments. So that's the reason behind that. Let's take it off and we'll have a look at it in closer detail then. So, starting off with the dial, everything is reasonably flat. I think the 20-minute indicator on the left-hand side is most certainly the most unusual thing about it. You know, it's nice to see sort of like a retrograde dial rather than a completely round dial. When it gets to 20 minutes, it does just go to the end and stop, and then you have to reset it and it will flick back. So in reality, in real life, day-to-day instances, it's probably not the most handy because personally, for instance, when I use my chronograph, you know, when I'm walking the dog or when I'm doing some cooking, I do like to have a full hour. So 20 minutes does limit that a little bit. So it's certainly more aimed toward those who are enthusiastic over boat racing and yachting. Yeah, obviously we have other print work as well. The loom is just a printed loom, and we have the hour markers, all like a vintage colour, slightly off orangey, kind of aged colour. And we have loom on the hour mark on the hands as well. The loom isn't the strongest, but you know, never really expect it to be too crazy strong in a watch costing this much. However, I do really like the chronograph seconds hand, you know, with this blue and the disc and the wider counterweight. It looks really, really nice. The other two subdials have a very gentle concentric circular pattern, but we'll have a look at that in closer detail when I get the macro lens on. And then the date window is just straight cut out of the dial. Perhaps it would have been nicer if it had a little bit more attention to detail, maybe a border around it, either painted or applied. But it's easy to see, easy to read, and it doesn't look too out of place. I know a lot of people don't particularly like date windows at 4.5 o'clock, but it's not the end of the world for me. So in terms of the dial, yeah, simple. I do like the blue colour, and it works really well with the leather strap. You know, quite an unusual design, which obviously works in their favour. Moving on to the case then. So the domed crystal is K1 hardened mineral. Obviously, it's disappointing that it's not sapphire, especially at this price point of £245. It's hardened, so it's better than standard mineral. However, you know, you probably will still run the risk of scratching it, especially considering it's domed. However, it is very nice to behold, especially when you look at it at angles, you know, looking at this distortion around the outside, very retro vintage inspired, and it creates a great impression on the watch. So the shape of it is lovely. It's just such a shame that it's not sapphire itself. Moving on to the rest of the case. So first of all, the bezel, tachymeter, which obviously would be used in racing quite a lot, and then the markings are all engraved, filled with paint, very nice and accurate with the brushed finish to it. Creates a wonderful frame to the watch itself. Really does stand out, and as I mentioned before, it's part of a lovely side profile of the watch. If I zoom in a little bit more, you can see here, you know, we have a very angular section of the bezel, and then a number of, you know, a few lines, different depths, you know, really a lot of amount of detail gone into the case, which I really like. They've done an excellent job on the case, that's for sure. The lug's quite spindly, but nice to behold, and the pushers fully polished as well. Pushers are pump grip style, big, fat, juicy, easy to use, and the crown, as you can see there, has the Undone logo, very deeply engraved, and a great grip as well. And it's slightly concealed underneath the bezel as well, so that keeps it reasonably well hidden. As you can see there, it doesn't protrude out too much at all. So really well formed, the case. The case back, pretty straightforward really, nothing too exciting, fully polished with a bit of detailing engraved. As you can see, it picks up a few scratches easily, if you can see them, but nothing too exciting really, just quite straightforward really. Moving on to the strap. Now the strap is really beautiful, as you can see, absolutely deliciously supple. Really free-flowing, so comfortable on the wrist as well. They've picked a magnificent quality leather. Good to see quick release pins as well, really easy to change them if you do. Have a bit of a racing theme coming through with the holes as well, so that obviously ties in with the boat racing theme, and then our little bits of stitching detailing on it as well. And it picks up a bit of a patina as well. As you can see, it's getting a bit darker where I've been wearing it, so that's nice. It picks up quite a bit of character, but it doesn't look out of place, that character. It looks really nice because it's such a rustic feel leather. Moving on to the buckle then, standard tang buckle with the Undone logo, lightly engraved / laser etched on the end there. Maybe it would have been nice if it was deeper engraved. Okay, let's get the macro lens on, and we'll have a look at it in much closer detail. So starting off with the the dial. Give it a quick wipe. So print works all nice and fine. As you can see, we have a very gentle texture to the dial itself as well. Here's our 20-minute indicator. Print works all good on that. Moving on to our hands with that aged vintage style loom, and the same on the printed loom hour markers. And here's our concentric circular pattern engraved on our subdials, nice and neatly done. And our chronograph seconds hands, you can see they're ticking away. Nice sort of like a textured paint job on it as well. Here's our date window, so very neatly cut out, but again, it would have been maybe nice if it had a little bit of closer attention to detail. Then we have some printed minute track around the outside. So moving on to the case, starting off with the bezel. As you can see here, we have our brushed finish to it with our markings all engraved and filled with paint. They're very neatly done. Then moving on to the side of the case, we have you know, a variety of finishes and you know, lots of different sections to it, which is very nice to behold. Good detailing. Flipping it over to the other side, let's have a look at one of our pushers. So you can see there, nice thick, decent pusher. There's our crown as well, very deeply engraved U, and great grip on that as well. I love the crown, it's really easy to use. And then flipping it over, here's our case back with our markings laser etched. Again, would have been nice if it was engraved. The detailing around the outside is engraved, like the specs, but as you can see, we've got a few scratches on it as already, which is sort of, you know, to be expected with fully polished case back. Moving on to our strap, we have a quick release pin here, bit of stitching detail. You can see the soft top grain of the leather there. And finally moving on to the buckle, you see the brushed finish and the Undone logo very lightly laser etched on that. Okay, so there we have it. So really at the end of this, there's only one main negative really, and that is the fact that it's not sapphire crystal. That's a real bummer, quite a shame. And there's a couple of bits, you know, where it would be nicer to have seen greater attention to detail, maybe a little bit of detailing around the date window, you know, the tang buckle maybe a little bit nicer, the engraving on the case back perhaps. But yeah, from a design perspective, it certainly is different and unusual. I like it. I think it's certainly aimed at those who are enthusiastic about boat racing or boats in general. It probably necessarily wouldn't be worn whilst boat racing because it doesn't have any particularly good water resistance. So you know, that's a bit of a conundrum there. However, from a visual perspective and, you know, from a developmental perspective, the way they've built it, it is lovely. I love the case. The case is really, really nice and splendid. It's just the sapphire crystal, which is a bit of a pain. However, they have made a nice watch which looks different. I do like the, you know, the 20-minute indicator, something a little bit quirky about it, and everything else about the dial is and the case is really well done. The leather strap is just glorious as well. So this was the Undone Urban Regatta Nacra 17 Special Edition, and that's what it's all about. So thanks for watching, guys. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment as well. So see you around.